So yesterday we would have looked at two slave rebellions or two slave revolts. Which two slave revolts we looked at?
Berbice slave revolt and Barbados.
Very good. Berbice and Barbados. And for those slave revolts, we looked at the causes and we also looked at the effects and the course of it. And we would have also seen where, especially for the Berbice slave revolt, where the enslaved people, enslaved Africans, would have sabotaged their own rebellion. Very, very sad. So for today, we're going to look at another slave revolt. And today we're going to go back to the same place in South America, which is today modern day Guyana. And we're going to look at the Demerara slave revolt. Now, Berbice, the colony of Berbice would have been right here along the Berbice River, along here, and Demerara River is right here, and Essequibo River is right here. So all of this area would have originally been owned and controlled by the Dutch. And as I said to you, after a period of time, the Dutch is going to be challenged by the British, and that's how the British is going to own all of this area, which is now today Guyana. All right. So today we're going to look at a revolt that happened within this geographic space, Demerara. The river is right here, nice, beautiful Demerara River. Now, for every single slave revolt, I will go to it over and over and over. What is one of the major causes of every single slave revolt?
The desire to be free.
The desire to be free. We cannot overemphasize that. So when you're going to the exam, and if you get a question where they ask you about the causes of either Haitian Revolution, causes of the Moran Bay, not Moran Bay, the Maroon Wars, causes of the Berbice slave revolt, causes of the Barbados slave revolt, or causes of the Demerara slave revolt. For every single slave revolt, the desire for freedom to create their own life is a major cause, or was a major cause of the slave rebellion. We cannot overemphasize that. The desire for freedom. Now, what was taking place, just like the Barbados slave revolt, where not only there was a desire for freedom, but there was the misinterpretation of what? What did the Barbados, go ahead, Brown?
So the registration form that they signed up. So they thought it was
the registration bill.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead for me, you're on the right track.
Sir, the enslaved thought it was the document saying that they're legally free, and they spread rumors around the plantation telling other enslaved when it wasn't true.
That is so true. Yes, that is correct. So they misinterpret, and which enslaved person was very prominent in that rumor, spreading the rumor?
Sir,
Go ahead for me, Emins.
I think it was Nanny Grigg.
Yes, that was her name. Very, very prominent in spreading the rumor. Going around from plantation to plantation, telling everybody that freedom arrived. In the same way, another cause for, similar to the Barbados slave revolt that happened in 1816. So the Barbados slave revolt happened in 1816. The registry bill happened in, well, it was between 1815 to 1816, where they had to register their enslaved. Another rumor is going to take place, similar to what happened in Barbados, where people said that, listen, our freedom has come and they refuse to give us our freedom. So, first cause, what is the first cause for every single slave revolt? Is the desire for
Freedom.
very good. Now, another cause for this slave revolt, and specific to this slave revolt, was another rumor about emancipation. People start to spread rumor. So after they abolished the slave trade, so the slave trade was abolished in the British Islands in 1807. And they said that we no more importation of Africans. And to stop them from importing Africans, the British government passed the registry bill saying you need to register all the Africans that you have. In Barbados, the enslaved people thought that, listen, this seems as if we get our freedom and they don't want to give us our freedom. So they misinterpret the registry bill for their freedom. By 1823, in Europe, they are going to pass another bill or another set of rules that is called the Amelioration Proposal. So in Europe, in Britain to be specific, they are going to pass a bill that is called the Amelioration Proposal. Now, next term, we're going to learn more about the Amelioration Proposal. And the Amelioration Proposal actually means that amelioration is a nice old English word that means improvement. So the amelioration proposals were to improve the condition of the enslaved people. And one of the proposals that Britain passed was that females should not be whipped. And if any male is going to be whipped, they need to record the lashes. So they start to bring things together in the colonies. For the grade 11, any one of you, what were some other amelioration proposals?
They were working overtime. They had to be paid.
All right. Anyone else? Thank you very much, Banton.
Sir, the overseers weren't allowed to carry whips in the field.
The overseers were?
Not to carry whips in the field.
Yes. So there were quite a lot of, if we look at the amelioration proposals, that the females were not supposed to be whipped, that females should get time off, to breastfeed their babies. You should improve the conditions of the enslaved people. Now, Banton, in regards to the amelioration proposal, remember apprenticeship is where the apprenticeship system is where they told them that they should not, they should pay for overtime, but not in the proposals. All right? Now the amelioration proposal. No, ladies. So if we look here, there's improvement. You're supposed to improve the condition. The planters had to agree with the proposal, but some of the planters disagree. And they had meetings all over Demerara, and they said that they disagree with the proposal. And so the enslaved people, they heard the planters in their different meetings talking about I don't agree with the proposal. These are our properties. Nobody should tell us how to treat our properties. We should treat our properties how we want to treat our properties. But Brittany is saying that you must improve the condition of the enslaved. And so the enslaved people thought that the planter did not want to give them their freedom, and their freedom was being withheld. So the first cause, desire for freedom. The second cause, the emancipation rumors, or the rumors about that their freedom was being withheld. And what led to the rumor? They misinterpret the amelioration proposal. They hear the planters talking about amelioration proposal. They heard the planters objecting to the amelioration proposal. But in reality, the amelioration proposals were just to improve their condition and not give them freedom. But they believe that the planters did not want to grant them their freedom. Just like every other slave revolt, another cause, the harsh treatment. They want to remove themselves from the harsh treatment of slavery. So they want to be free. And you need to explain that most of these enslaved persons knew freedom because they lived in Africa. And they knew what it was like to be free. And then the treatment that they come and endure in the Americas was nothing nice. And you need to explain harsh treatment. Give examples to the examiner about the harsh treatment of the enslaved people. And also another example of it is that they were underfed, which led to frustration and anger. And how do we know that the enslaved people in Demerara went through harsh conditions? Kamina was forced to work far from her home, even though, no, Kamina was a male slave from Africa, enslaved from Africa, and he was like a jobbing slave. And he was forced to work very far from home while his wife, Peggy, was ill. And in fact, Kamina was a very important figure in the revolt, the Demerara revolt. And wife was ill and had to work at far distances, and that is going to cause frustration. Another cause that was very important that we can link to Barbados, after the Barbados slave revolt, what they did in Barbados to the church. What they did to in Barbados to the church?
People how to read.
Go ahead. Repeat.
I was saying that the religious leaders taught them how to read and taught them about.
So the religious leaders taught them how to read. Very good. But after the enslaved people rebelled in Barbados, who the planters blamed for the rebellion?
Sorry, the missionaries.
They blamed the missionaries and what they did to the missionaries in Barbados. They blamed the missionaries, but what they did? What they did to the church?
So they ran the missionaries out of Barbados.
Repeat?
They ran them out of Barbados.
They ran the missionaries out of Barbados. Very good. And what they did to the church? The building itself.
They burnt it down?
They burnt the building down. And so, after that, what happened in Barbados? In 1816, because remember the Barbados Slave Revolt happened in 1816. The Demerara is 1823. It was after the Barbados Slave Revolt that people gonna say, listen, you need to improve how the enslaved people are treated, and that's how they come up with the Amelioration proposal. How many years after? How many years after the Amelioration proposal came into being from the Barbados Slave Revolt? Calculated, one is 1816 and the other is 1823.
Sorry, 7 years.
7 years after. So 7 years after the Barbados Slave Revolt, those in the colony of Demerara, they are going to say, listen, we are not going to allow the missionaries to teach the enslaved people the Bible. So they're going to put restriction. They're going to put restriction on the enslaved people. And one of that restriction is that they need to, well, at first they said that the enslaved people should not attend church. Because they are saying what happened in Barbados, where one, the missionaries taught the enslaved people to rebel. That is what the planters do. You know, the planters blame the missionaries to say, you teach them to read, and it's because you teach them to read, they can tell us about the emancipation, the registry bill, and they misinterpret the registry bill, and you are teaching them about freedom in the Bible. And so, if we look at the restriction, new restriction going to happen because the planters in Demerara are saying, what happened in Barbados, we do not want that to happen in Demerara. Not what happened in Barbados. So this put restriction on the enslaved people from attending churches. So Reverend John Smith was a very popular missionary. And he was from the London Missionary Society. And on a weekly basis, he had over 800 enslaved people attending his church, taking part in his church, learning to read and write and preach. deacons and all of these different stuff. And the planters saying, no, if we allow what John Smith church to continue, then what happened in Barbados going to happen also, they're going to put religious restriction on them. So we cannot go into the exam and say another cause of the Demerara slave revolt was the implementation of religious restriction. You need to know, ask yourself, because of religious restriction, how the enslaved people gonna feel? They're going to agree with the religious restriction, not going to church? Question, ladies, are they going to say to themselves that we are not going to go to church? Did they like the religious restriction that the planters placed on them? Hello?
No, sir.
No. And so that was also another cause. And you need to make it plain to the examiner. You tell the examiner, you could link it back to what happened in Barbados. And you tell the examiner that, listen, religious restriction on the attendance of enslaved people, new religious restriction. You tell them that John Smith Church had over 800 enslaved people attending weekly. And because of what happened in Barbados, they're going to put new restriction on the enslaved people attending churches. And this is going to frustrate the enslaved people. And that's another reason why they're going to rebel. And because the planters said that the missionaries were teaching them anti-slavery activities. Now let us read some of the scriptures that they banned. The enslaved people were not supposed to read these scriptures. Somebody read it for me, please. Brown?
Israelites being free from slavery, 2 Corinthians 3 verse 17, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And John 8 verse 36, so if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed.
All right. This one?
Galatians 5 verse 1, it is freedom that Christ has set you free. Stand firm then and do not let yourselves be buried again by a yoke of slavery.
Yes. Thank you very much, Brown. So with these scriptures in the Bible, they're not supposed to, they were banned from reading these passages in the Bible about freedom. They don't want anything to tell you. You could not discuss about the Israelites being freed from slavery. And so religious restriction was another. So desire for freedom cause, emancipation rumors cause, harsh treatment cause. I give the example of Camina, an enslaved man who had to work very far as a jobbing slave from his wife who was ill. His wife was Peggy, was ill, another cause. Religious restriction, they were no longer allowed to attend churches. They were not allowed to read certain parts of the Bible. And so that is going to, all of these are going to combine together. That is going to cause a slave revolt. Now, on Sunday, August the 17th, 1823, on a plantation, the plantation name was Plantation Success. What was the name of the plantation that the Barbados slave revolt started on?
Bailey?
Bailey's Plantation, and it was in the parish of Which parish it was in? It was in the parish of St. Philip. Now, so in the colony of Demerara, the plantation was plantation success. And so the enslaved now going to discuss how they are going to revolt, because they did not like, they wanted the freedom. They heard that the freedom was being withheld. They didn't like the fact that they started to place restriction on them. And so two enslaved persons, Jack Gladstone and Camina, his father was also a senior deacon at John Smith's church. These two enslaved men, they are going to plan a protest. All right? Now let us look at this. Where is Brown? Help me out right here for me, please. Continue with the organization. Let us see what is taking place. The first day of the protest.
Okay, sir. Enslaved Africans stormed the coastal plantations using swords and a few muskets. Over 12,000 enslaved joined the rebellion. Governor Murray was shot. 700 to 800 rebels forced back the 1st West Indian Regiment into Mahaira Fort, locked up and seized the managers and overseers on approximately 37 plantations. Colonial forces had superior weapons and attacked the rebels.
Good. Thank you very much, Brown. So the first thing that you're going to do is that the enslaved, they are going to attack the plantation, burn down some plantations, right? Then after that, what they're going to do is that they shot the governor, which was Governor Murray, and then the fort, which is where all the ammunitions were kept, they are going to seize control of the fort, where they're going to get weapons and all of these different stuff, right? And in fact, the West India Regiment, which was like the militia, like an army, they forced them back, meaning that the enslaved people were fighting so aggressively that the army had to retreat. They had to run. And in the different plantations, they are going to lock up all the different white people, the managers and the overseers, lock them up. They did that on 37 plantations. But the colonial forces had superior weapons because they were still on the fort. Oh, I said something incorrect just now. They did not seize the fort. They did not seize the fort. So what they're going to do now is that the colonial forces, because they had superior weapons, such as large tanks and guns and all of these different, so not tanks like what they used in World War II and World War I, but they had superior weapons. And they are going to now attack the rebels. And they are going to get the assistance of the Indians. Where else we saw the Indians assisting the colonial forces? The indigenous Indians. Which one of the other slave revolts?
Berbies or
Berbies. Thank you very much. Berbies. That is correct. The Berbice slave revolt. Now, suppression. How the revolt was suppressed or how it failed. Sawyers, you're here with me?
Yes, sir.
So we look, so Sawyers, we would have looked at the causes. And then after the Demerara slave revolt, we look at what happened. Now we're going to look at how the revolt failed. So go to the first, read the first point.
Lack of unity among the enslaved people. Joseph Packwood, a house slave, told his master John Simpson about the planned revolt.
All right. So that is the first. So that is the first thing. Every single slave revolt, well, we never see that much in the Barbados slave revolt, to be honest. But in Barbados slave revolt, we see where the enslaved people attacked them one another. There was no unity. And in this slave revolt, Joseph Packwood, a house slave, went and told his master everything about the plan. Everything about the plan. He went and he told his master about. And so, if you're going to tell the master about the plan of the enslaved people, what that is going to cause? What is going to be the repercussion of informing?
Sir, the rebellion will not be successful.
It will not be successful. All right? And another thing was that they used the martial law where they impose on the enslaved people by just seeing anybody, whether you're part of the revolt or not, they're going to kill you. They had superior weapons. Most of the enslaved people were actually fighting with swords and the cutlasses. But the planters were using the muskets and all of these other stuff. So they are going to suppress. And also, they are going to use the native Indians, the indigenous Indians, to track and capture the enslaved people. And then we also have to look at the role of the fort. The fort was very important because at the fort, how many soldiers they had at the fort? They had a significant number of almost 500 soldiers at the fort, and these soldiers were well trained and ready to take on the enslaved people with their superior weapons. Now let us give some examples of the mass killing that happened. And we could look at these as the consequences of the slave revolt. 1, 33 were actually executed, 16 received lashes, 250 died, 3 white persons killed. On trial, they sent Jack Gladstone, they expelled him to St. Lucia. More restriction is going to happen. They are going to close Bethel Church. Missionaries had to stop all activities. I want to go more to the missionaries. John Smith, the Reverend for the church, who had over 800 enslaved people attending weekly. He was arrested and he was killed not killed. He allegedly died in prison. Do you believe that John Smith died just like that in prison?
No,
No,
sir.
sir.
No, I don't believe it. They said that he just died in prison. They arrested him and they said, listen, you are in charge or convicted for the conspiracy for the enslaved people uprising. You are the one who taught them to read. You invite them to church. You preach to them about freedom. And so John Smith died. And once John Smith died in prison, William Shoebury Church in Barbados, the Methodist Church, they in Barbados said, listen, you hear what happened in Demerara? They went and they completely destroyed that church. So you are seeing where one slave revolt is impacting another island. Them already damaged the church already. And now they're going to demolish it. Nothing is left there. And so other people, Thomas Buxton and others, are now going to say, this is serious. This is serious and something is wrong. Because we cannot allow John Smith life to just go down like that. We sent John Smith from England to preach, to save the enslaved people from their sin. And he was arrested. His church was destroyed. Then we hear that in Barbados, they completely destroyed the chapel after they run William Shoebury to St. Vincent. And they already destroyed the chapel in Barbados. And now they completely demolish it. No, something is wrong with the system of slavery. So the Christians, some of the Christians in the non-conformist Christian in England, they are going to say it is time to end slavery because slavery made the whites very wicked. And so, as a result of the Demerara slave revolt, it is going to give an impetus for the abolition movement, where more people are going to come out now and say, listen, it is time for us to end slavery immediately because they turn against the people of God. They're killing them, the man of God in Barbados, the people in God who is preaching the gospel. They do it in Barbados, they do it in Demerara, they're going to do it all over again. We need to end slavery. So more white Europeans are now going to oppose the system of slavery because a lot of them know John Smith. John Smith was their pastor. A lot of them know William Shoebury. They were pastors in England before they came to the Caribbean to preach to the enslaved people. And so those were some of the effects of the Demerara slave revolt. All right. So what we would have done today is that we would have looked at the causes. Remind me of some of the causes, ladies. Causes
Sir,
of the slave revolt. Go ahead.
Desire for freedom.
Yes. What else?
religious restriction,
Very good. What else?
Harsh treatment.
Harsh treatment. If we're gonna give if we need to give an example about harsh treatment, which one we're gonna use?
Quam.
Yes. What else, lady? So we know for sure, we look at the causes, right? Very good. You cover all the causes. One more. The major one, we didn't recap one. What was the major one? I believe, well, it's very important.
Sir, the passages of scriptures.
The restriction of it?
No, sir, the freedom passages.
Oh, yes, the freedom passages, yes. Very good.
So emancipation.
Sir, 1 second. Ladies, did we mention about the misinterpretation of the bill? The proposals?
Yes, sir.
All right, good, good. So we look at some of the causes. What are some of the effects? Effects, ladies?
Properties being destroyed.
Properties being destroyed, yes.
Sir, would one also be the missionaries being sent away?
The missionaries, yes. Now, look at this past paper question. This is 2017, especially for the grade 11. Same for you. Well, this is the only time they have asked about the Demerara slave revolt. And they said you are getting Demerara this year. And so question 6B. All right, let us do 6A. Somebody read 6A for me, please.
Identify one male and one female leader of major 19th century slave revolts in the British Caribbean and the territories with which these leaders were associated.
Come, ladies, how we would go? So they say identify one male and one female leader of major 19th century slave revolt in the British Caribbean and the territories to which they belong. 4 marks. Who would answer that one? Go ahead, Brown.
Sir, Nanny of the Maroons, Jamaica.
But remember, look at it, you know. It said 19th century.
Oh.
Nanny of the Maroon would have been 17th, 18th century. The Maroon Wars was the 18th century.
Yes, sir.
So look at it, it said 19th century. Anyone else?
Would it be none?
Go ahead for me, Emmons.
Sir, would it be Nanny Grig, Barbados?
Nanny Greek Barbados, very good, very good. Anyone else want to try?
Sir, coffee.
Coffee, and coffee is?
Sir, Berbice.
Berbice. Very good, very good. All right, so you get your 4 marks there. Now the next one, remember you have to peel your 3 points. Explain 3 main causes of the Demerara revolt of 1823. So what 3 causes we're going to look at?
Sir, the religious restrictions.
Religious restriction, yes. What else?
Emancipation rumors.
Emancipation rumors, very good. What else?
Desire for freedom.
The desire for freedom, very good. Any other one that we would want to include to make them know that we are bright?
Sir, harsh treatments.
The harsh treatments, very good. All right, and you appeal all of those points. So explain 3 major consequences of the Demerara slave revolt of 1823. 3. Now I would suggest that you could look at it thematic, look at economic, causes, social causes. But go ahead. Which one? How we would look at it? What are three? You can look at it anyhow. You could say social causes. What would happen under social causes?
So some slaves were written. Some
Repeat for me, is Banton, repeat. Social causes, ladies.
so would it be that some slaves, 16 I think you said, were whipped and some died?
Yes, yes. So you could talk about the death. So under social causes, you could say the enslaved, the revolt. One of the consequences is that where go? Let us go back to it here. You could say right here that 33 enslaved were executed, 16 were whipped, 250 enslaved died during the war. So you should add the 33 plus the 250, right? That is 283 enslaved people that actually died. 3 whites were killed. Yes, so these are social causes. Yes, so you could mention about that quite a lot of persons died from it. What else? So you develop that point and you have your evidence. What other one we're going to look at? Another cause, consequence, or effects.
Sir, I'm not sure about this one, but would one be the more religious restrictions?
Yes, yes, that is a major one. Major one. Explain some of the what were some of the religious restriction, the more religious restriction that they place.
Sir, they weren't allowed to read certain passages of scripture.
Yes, but remember that is
Sorry.
true. But what happened? Continue, Brown. Develop the point.
Sir, they weren't supposed to read the Bible at all because they were fearful that they will uprise.
Yes, what about so if you're looking at more religious restriction, at this point, they are telling them that, what about the missionaries? Could they go and preach to the enslaved people?
No.
No. So more religious restriction includes that all missionaries' activities stopped.
Sir?
Go ahead for me, Corey.
Sir, by chance, could the missionaries fall under social in any way, shape, or form? Because they didn't just.
Yeah, man, it is part of social. You could look at it from a social.
Sir.
And then also, ladies, what would be some of the economic impact of it, consequences? Right across, you have economic consequences for everything.
There will be destruction of property and drop in production because a lot of the enslaved died.
Very good, very good. Yes. So you can look at it, the economic consequences also. So we look at economic, the religious. What was a major one? I believe this was the major thing that came out of it.
So they fastened up the emancipation process?
They what?
They fastened or started the emancipation process.
Yes. So there was an impetus for the emancipation. So, and you could explain the reason why more people in Europe start to talk about that they need to free the enslaved people. Immediately, the abolition movement, it gave them an impetus. Impetus. Let us look at it here. the impetus of the abolition movement, where they are now going to call for the immediate emancipation of all enslaved people. They are going to print pamphlets and all of these different stuff and start to tell them that, listen, it's time for slavery to come to an end. And the reason why they are going to have an impetus is because of what happened to John Smith. You have to discuss John Smith and what they did after that revolt in Barbados. The revolt, not even in Barbados, but yesterday they go and demolish the church. All right, ladies. So if we look at it from here, if we look at this question, right now I believe that you're ready. If you get this question in the exam the next few weeks, for those in grade 11, you get this question, you're going to mash it up. Because this is it. Another way they could ask you about to name the leader of the Demerara slave revolt, two of these leaders, and two of the leaders were
Nanny Grigg and Coffee.
I said Barbados or Demerara.
Kwamina.
Yes, and
Jack. Something, I don't know.
And Jack Gladstone. Glad and Stone. Remember, Glad, Stone. So those are the two main persons. Who was the informer? Who was the informer of the slave revolt?
Joseph Packard.
Very good. And if they should ask you in the exam about the suppression, why it failed, because they could ask you 3 questions. They could ask you causes, how it failed, or the reason why it failed, suppression, and the consequences. So we look at the consequences, we look at the causes, why it failed.
Lack of unity.
Lack of unity. Explain lack of unity for me.
The Joseph man,
Yeah.
he informing to his overseer, I think it's planted that about the plans for the revolt.
Very good. What other reason why it failed?
Sir, the authoritative powers had superior weapons.
Very good, very good. What other reason why it failed?
Sir, they had indigenous Indians tracking tracking.
Very good, very good, very good. Yes. Yes, and those are some of the reasons. All right. So ladies, any other question?
Sir.
Go ahead for me.
Sir, under the economic point, could you give a bit more, sir? Because I don't know how to fully break that. And I know how to give the point, but not to break it down.
But so if you look at the economic, you in the economic point, you need to mention, let us go to this slide. In the economic, to discuss the economic factors, where is the course? They stormed the plantations, right? Over 37 plantations were actually, over 37 plantations were affected. Over 12,000 enslaved joined the rebellion, right? So you could mention that over 37 plantations would have received damage. They would have destroyed the cane fields. So they are going to lose money. They are going to lose workers because some of the enslaved people are going to die, right? And so if you're going to develop the economic, he said another effect of the ends of the slave revolt was economic reasons. And so therefore, if we're going to look at it, we could say that over 37 plantations were affected because the enslaved persons would have stormed the coastal plantation, and significant amount of damage was actually done to these plantations. Some of the damages include the destruction of the fields. Cane fields were set on fire. Plantation houses were destroyed, right? And in addition to that, they would have lost production because they would have lost a significant amount of their labor force, because over 283 enslaved persons died. And most of those enslaved persons were some of the very skilled workers. A perfect example of a skilled worker was the one who led the rebellion, Jack Gladstone, and also Kwamina. Those two were very important enslaved persons. They were elite slaves and they led the plantation, and so production declined. That help you out, Ashley?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good, good. So note your 3 points or your 4 points. Develop it nice for the exam and make all of us proud. All right, ladies. So for the grade 10, we meet again tomorrow morning, 8 to 10. Sorry, 8 to 9, where we are going to look at our final slave revolt, the Jamaica slave revolt. And then we're going to look at Jamaica slave revolt for the first part of the class. And we're going to see if we can do some